university for 2 years. And then they asked them, do you see a value in your education? And 73% said they did, which is exciting because that was up from 52% 2023 graduates. So a lot more students feel like their education matters, and that's a good thing. But 75% feel universities aren't prepared for AI. So they're not teaching it well, they don't understand it well, they're not using it well. What does that mean? Well, when we look at employers, 62% of the people who are going to be employing you when you leave think you should have knowledge of generative AI because it's going to be used. And then 58% are more likely to interview and hire you if you have it somewhere on your resume or in something that you had an AI course of any kind. So that you have some kind of AI knowledge actually is more likely to get you hired. So that's why we're doing this. It's not just because it'll help you write your scales, but it's because you'll be more marketable and more able to get jobs. One of the first things I always start with is APA citations, because there's a lot of arguments as to how you cite ChatGPT or anything. Somebody give me an idea. What do you think? How do you think you cite a chatbot or AI of any kind? How would you cite that? Where do you put it that I used AI? Because did I ever have to cite that I used PowerPoint? No, it was just a tool and I just used it. But AI is different. Why is AI different? Why do we have to cite AI? If it's a tool and I'm just using it to help me, why do I have to cite it?
It literally generates ideas.
It generates ideas. It's not my original thought that's coming out of the output. It's generating ideas. However, PowerPoint has the design feature. You ever played with PowerPoint's design feature? Yeah, you just plug it in. It generates designs that I didn't think of. Did I have to cite PowerPoint's design feature? What's interesting is you were actually supposed to, you just didn't know it. So since PowerPoint and Excel put in their graph and their design features, because it generates something for you, it was supposed to be cited. We just didn't have any knowledge of that. But now that AI has become really generative, there's lawsuits going on for people who didn't cite that their presentation was made by PowerPoint's AI designer, or they didn't cite that all of their graph work in their books was done by Excel, which is fascinating if you think about, would they win that lawsuit? Some people are saying yes, but other people are saying, well, if you don't know, you can't do it. So then would everybody be sued? So it's a really interesting conversation. What's also interesting about all of this is that it changed. The way in which we cited AI from the beginning of last year to now is totally different. How do you think we cited AI last year? And I find this so fascinating. Last year, we cited AI as if we were having a conversation with a person. We cited AI as if we were having a conversation because when I'm having a conversation, no one can pull that same information back up and tell me what I said, right? Same thing with AI. I can't today go get the same response tomorrow because AI's changed. AI's learned since then. So it won't give the exact same response. So if I've got something that won't give me the same response, how do I cite it? They said, well, cite it like a conversation. No one's going to be able to pull that back. Cite it like a conversation. That has changed because of laws. The European Union created a law about AI use. We don't have one in the US, but all of people involved in the European Union, they have a law now that says what kind of AI they can and can't use and how they use it. We don't have one in the US. We have a bunch of frameworks. I don't think we're going to get a law in the US anytime soon, but there is one for the whole European Union. So if you're going to school in Canada, there's a law you have to follow about your AI use, which is interesting. That law changed from AI is a conversation to AI is a piece of material. It's not a person. Why are we pretending it's a person? It's a piece of material, but it does generate. And because it generates, that matters. And what it comes up with matters. So now we cite AI. In-text has always been the same. You cite who created the AI, not the name of the AI. So if you're citing ChatGPT, you're not citing ChatGPT, you're citing OpenAI. If you're citing Magic School, you are citing Magic School because Magic School was created. The company is called the same thing as the chatbot, if that makes sense. So this would be, if you're doing a presentation, you can, at the beginning of your work, also say that this was made in order to blank. After using this tool, the authors reviewed and edited the content as needed. Like you can put this whole entire in your books or in your presentations for your dissertation. You can put this. You still have to do the citation, but you can put that at the beginning of a letter that you use, of anything. But the citation actually looks like this. You have the person who created it, the date, what it was, so ChatGPT, the version you were using, exact month of that version, not that anybody could pull it back, but they do need to know that, what kind of technology it was, this was a large language model, and the prompt you gave it. And then where they can go to get that specific link. What is interesting about this is they're now saying, if AI gave you most of your content, like one of the AIs I'm going to give you today, actually creates a whole journal article for you, and you could turn it in. Like from start to finish, it's free. I can put any subject in, and it will create a whole journal article for me. It's fascinating. Some of it's going to be wrong. Some of even the citations it lists aren't correct or aren't there, but it will do it. So I have to put, if more of the content is from the AI than from me, I have to put the entire chat history in the appendices. So if more of your content, so if AI wrote most of the book goes in an appendix in the back, and only the things I changed are actually in the book. So some things to be thinking about as you use AI. This would be, and then briefly explain in the prompt to readers how you accessed your information or what you changed if it's particularly important, or you can include a transcript in the appendices, stating exactly, like if your prompt is like 5 pages long, because sometimes prompts are really good if the more detailed you are, and we're going to talk about how you prompt something. So sometimes my prompt is a whole page long. I'm not going to put a whole page of prompts in there, but I'll put the very beginning of it and put the rest in appendices. So we always have to start with what are the challenges and ethical considerations when I use AI. Most of you already know these. So name one. What's a challenge of AI? Hallucinations. Yeah, it comes up with the information that's not true. It creates all kinds of fun stuff. That I have a lot of pictures that my AI generator, I created a chatbot that generates images because I was so tired of the images I was getting not being good. So I made one through Poe that really generates amazing images. But before it generated amazing images, I had about 120 images where it would give a person with only hands or only part of them in somewhere in the picture. Like somewhere there's a magical hand that goes the wrong direction or is just there. So it took a lot to get something that wasn't a hallucination, something that looked real. What else? Privacy. Yeah, you cannot, under any circumstances, put data with any names of any of your participants when you create these skills and instruments in any sort of AI. You cannot have names, period. First or last. It doesn't matter if you just use first names. You cannot use names. No personal identification. You can't use birth dates. You can't use, if they're publicly used, social security numbers. You can't use any of those things. You can use unidentified data in AI as much as you want. So that's one thing to think of, is privacy. What else?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism, yeah. I said I did this, but really AI did it for me. So plagiarism is a big thing. When you think about artists taking of other people's work or their livelihood, I went to a meeting and it was so cool. I've never had this done in a meeting before, but somebody sat there at a screen, and during the meeting, they literally drew a picture of all of the words we were saying. And by the end, there was this huge picture of all the meeting summary in an image. Never seen that done before. I was like, this is the coolest meeting I've ever been at. Now AI can do that for me. I can add AI to my Zoom room and it will create an image of what I just told you. So there's a lot that AI can do that does put people out of work. But what's interesting is when we first came out with internet, iPhones, the newest technology, everyone said it was going to put a lot of people out of work. And it actually generated 6 million more jobs than it took away. So AI is going to generate more jobs, but it is also going to take away some jobs that there won't be certain jobs anymore. There will be other forms. So we have to be thinking about that. And then biases. Most of the AI is created by who? Most AI, because AI is based off of what's inputted into a computer by people. Who do you think the majority of AI is created by if we were to do a survey? Students, some of that students, so certain age levels, definitely. You will not get a lot of opinions of 70 to 90-year-olds in AI, and that is true. What else? The least likely person or population in AI right now is Native American. They're the least likely heard voice on AI, which is interesting because you also have people who don't go to school in certain countries, but they still have more of a voice for a lot of different reasons. What else? Number one, people who have tech jobs, what are they typically? White males. So the number one voice is still white males on AI when we're looking at that. So things like data privacy, the algorithm, the bias, because it was created by these people, their feelings, thoughts, beliefs are what come out first, not necessarily others. The digital divide, some people still don't have access to certain technologies, so they're not going to be able to do some of the things that other people are able to do, or they don't have anyone to teach them. Like a lot of AI use is what you're taught. Once you learn about something, you play with it until you learn it, and then you use it. But if you're never taught, how do you know it's even there? You don't know what you don't know. How transparent you are in saying how you used it and what methodology you used. Not having as much human touch or human contact, that does. We obviously know that depression and anxiety has increased substantially. And a lot of people say that's because of technology, because I have my emails, my chats, always at my fingertips, so I'm doing less human communication. And that could be, I haven't done enough research on it to know, but people are worried about human touch. And then rights, who owns what right? There are so many lawsuits about that. Is it the person who created the AI, or is it all the people who put the information in the AI that made the AI smarter? Who owns all of this? Verification, you have to check what AI tells you. You can never go and just believe it. You have to verify it. And that's why we're going to talk about what chatbot you use, because some chatbots provide the verification of everything they tell you, so you can go back and check. Some chatbots just give you random information. One fascinating thing I learned this week even was that ChatGPT was created based off of a search function. So like Google searches kind of. Whereas Perplexity and Claude were created based off of question. So they started inserting questioning and answers. So the way in which they were created is very different. So the output will be different. And I do get very different output when I put the same question into different chatbots. So original thought, making sure we actually think for ourselves, and then all those laws, frameworks, guidelines that we have to pay attention to. So all of these things are important. But one of the interesting things is AI is 82 years old today. It's been around for 82 years. AI is not new, not even close. The first real test that involved what we would call the Turing test, where it had a person in a computer and tried to tell which one was actually providing the information, was back in 1950. So even we were testing AI back in 1950. We were deciding, is it better than a human or not? The actual term artificial intelligence was coined in 1956. We have the first chatbot, her name was Eliza, and that was 1969. So really AI became a huge industry in 1980, ironically. So most of you weren't even born when AI started really being what we call AI. And there's a lot more chatbots that came from there. Most of you know Siri, Alexa, Lex, all of the ones that came after and after and after, and there will be many more. One of the things I always like to start these presentations with is by the time I finish this presentation, most of this AI will have advanced and I will not have. So it's always going to be ahead of me. I'm not going to be able to catch up. And we've known that since the law of doubling of technology. Is it Murphy's Law? That everything doubles. Moore's Law, thank you. Moore's Law, that everything doubles. Well, AI is doubling so quickly that fact that it doubles in the rate in which it doubles means it's going to get smarter than me very quickly. And that's scary for a lot of people. It's why the European Union put those laws in place, is because they're worried, what if a computer becomes smarter than us? And there are movies written about this kind of stuff, but it's something we do have to think about. So how am I going to teach you to use AI? We're going to do some interactive stuff, but I promise I'm still going to get you out of here by 6:30. To use AI for your scale and instrument development in a few different ways. I'm going to use it in 6 different ways, since most of you said that you would like at least 6 tools. We're going to use it to collaborate and create something. So how you use AI to collaborate or create, how you use it as your daily assistant. I have trained many chatbots to be my daily assistant for different reasons, and they are very helpful. How I use it to personalize the scale or instrument to the specific population I plan to give it to, because that's really important to get accurate data. how I'm going to use it to generate questions. Like if I don't know how I should ask a question, AI might. It's pulling from different locations. I'm going to show you some ways in which you can use AI to only pull from valid and reliable sources. How I use AI to save time, because we all know that we need that if we're going to be doing all of this work and homework and all that jazz. I'm going to need AI to save time. So how do I do that? And then based off of all of this, after I save time, how do I get it to generate? And I always say generate drafts, because it is never going to be your final completion. AI should not be the last person involved. A lot of times it can be the first. You can kind of help you get started. I actually think AI is going to be incredibly useful for people with dysgraphia, because one of the main parts of that disability is the inability to start writing. But if I have something where I can just give it a question and it starts writing for me, that takes a lot of that anxiety away. So I do think AI is going to do amazing things in a lot of different ways that you'll find out about soon. So what you put into AI matters. Who here has already been trained on how to prompt AI? Oh, great. One person. We will go into it then. You can give us one of the things you learned on how to prompt AI. Yep. Perfect. Those were great. I can give tasks, context, persona. Those are very much what we're going to talk about. I have to give clear directions. Who, what, when, where, how do I want it? All of those things. I need to state the time, how detailed I want. I want a presentation with 20 slides. I want an article that's 3 pages long. I want a picture that fits in an 8x10. So giving it the parameters, the output, what exactly I want. I want a list of questions. I want a survey. I want feedback for my students. What exactly do you want? And give it that list. Role playing, give it a role. You are a college professor, and I'm going to have you as a college professor tell me what you think about blank, blank, blank. You are a sports newscaster. I want you to tell me about today's news in this voice. So the more you can give it a persona, the better. The more you can tell it your audience. I will often say when I'm using AI for things, I am writing a peer-reviewed journal article. This is the population that will be reading this article. They are teachers, soon to become teachers, or current teachers who need assistance in these areas. Why do I do that? I get so much better output at the end. So be thinking about what you put in matters. My prompts are more than 3 sentences long, because they're telling you what exactly I want, how long I want, what I want, how I want you to figure out what I want, where I want you to go. Sometimes I'll tell them certain sources I want them to use. Like I want you to go to Iris, because Peabody's got a lot of good education information. I know it's accurate. So if you want it to go certain places, tell it. So some things to be thinking about. The first way to use AI for collaboration. Has anybody here used FlexClip? Okay, it won't take you there, but it is so much fun. So I really would love to take you there. Anybody here use Notebook LM? Okay, so we got a few of those. So I won't take you to either of these, but I'll take you to a few others. But I do want to tell you about them because FlexClip and Notebook LM are used for very different things. I'm going to take you to some different sites. When I go to FlexClip, what often comes up is an editor. I can put any specific movie, I can put music into it. I can layer up to 16 things. I can turn the actual audio off of a video, any video I throw in there. I can turn the audio off. I can put a different audio on top of it. I can use a video with no audio and have it add audio for me. And this is all free. Certain movie generators have a certain time period, like some of them are 4 minutes only. You can only make 4-minute movies, but it's free up to that amount. There's a lot of different ways in which you can use it. I like to take things like what I generate from Notebook LM. Notebook LM can take any article I've written or any paper that I want to read about. I often throw it into Notebook LM and have it make me a podcast. It makes really quick podcasts, and that's how I know if I want to read an actual article or not, because I play the podcast as I'm running in the morning. Nope. Don't really want to read that. That is not interesting. Or yes, I really want to read this. This is one where I took pictures of things we were doing from a specific article. Then I took their specific music added it to that article. And then I took the actual writing that was going on and added it. And so you can delete up to
The
12
latest
lines.
research from these absolute rock stars.
And
in the
it'll go
field,
through, this is
Doctors
a
Megan
podcast that was
Mosher,
created not by
Lisa
me,
Deeker,
by somebody
and
else.
Rebecca Hines.
And this is the video it's creating based off of that podcast. So it's,
Yeah,
it's
seriously,
free
cutting-edge
and it has
stuff.
lots of
And
options.
what I find really fascinating is how they connect their research.
And I can make this volume lower so that it goes below the other volume. I can choose what specific things I want. I can make slide transitions. It's kind of endless. If I don't have pictures, like a lot of the stuff I wanted it to talk about, I don't have pictures of, it'll generate pictures for you, and it's all free. So some of the pictures obviously are part of the paid. So it'll show you like 40 pictures that are paid, but then there are at least 20 that are free. So something to think about is Flex Clip. And then Notebook LM, because only a few of you had it, I'm just going to show you briefly. Notebook LM can summarize any article you put in it in a PDF. So I just attach a PDF to this. When you go into New Notebook or whatever you want to add, I can upload a source. So I'm just going to take a quick PDF, whichever one I can find quickly. I can do this presentation. Yeah, we'll do the presentation from right now. I'm going to stick it in there. It does better with actual articles, but even a presentation you could throw in there. You can then say what you want it to do with it. So here's the summary of the presentation I gave you guys. This presentation explores artificial intelligence in education. The authors focus on the benefits of AI and personalizing learning. So it'll tell you what my presentation was about. It'll give you key questions. And then it creates up here, if I click generate where it says deep dive conversation, I can click generate and a podcast is created out of my presentation. And the podcast is very good. It's usually accurate, two voices talking to each other like you just heard. So this presentation in a few minutes will become a podcast. What I do want to tell you about this that's fascinating is the podcast it generates first. I just went to a presentation on this week and I couldn't believe it, but it was so true. When I first generated this out of our article and gave it to the two people I wrote the article with, because we didn't have time to get on a podcast and talk to someone, we just didn't have time. So that he said, can you send us one? It's like, I don't have time to go down to the library, get a mic, get another person and create a podcast out of this article. Like I took too much time to write the article. I don't have time for all of that. So what do? So we just threw the article in there, had it create a podcast. But what was interesting is when I sent the podcast, it created it to everyone before I put it in Flex Clip. I wanted to make sure they were okay with what it said. I sent it to everyone and one of the teachers was like, I don't like it. It's like, oh, wow. What don't you like about it? I thought this was cool. An 8-minute podcast out of our article and we don't have to do a thing. She's like, I don't like it because the guy is always in charge of the questions and the answers. He seems like the expert and the girl isn't. She's like, that's just bias. I was like, oh, fascinating. Well, someone in an AI conference yesterday did a study on that. And the first podcast that is generated is always that way. The guy's the expert and the girl isn't. But you can keep generating. You can delete that one. You can throw it away and generate another one. You don't have to input anything else. You just click generate again and it'll create one with the girl being the expert. It's always the second one it creates. Then the third one it creates, it'll have them as equals. So if you want them to just be going off of each other, that's the third one it creates. And then after that, it thinks that you really don't like what it's doing, so it does random things. Like it pulls out information it didn't pull out before. It tries to find some obscure fact in there. So it will keep creating until you like what the output is, which is also fascinating, and it's free. Questions?
Well, it learned to make podcasts by listening to thousands of podcasts,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So that tells you the patterns out there. It's just like the early findings that will often be racist or
Yep.
sexist because it's learning from
From the podcast.
what it finds.
Yep, and most of the podcast presenters they found were males talking to females about something or talking to someone else who wasn't an expert. So yeah, that's how it just determined how to do it. We'll come back to the conversation it generated, but I don't want to spend too much time because I want to take you to a lot of different places. So one way to be collaborative is to have it do your work for you and to ask other people, what AI are you really good at? Because I knew really well how to use Magic School, Brisk AI, and FlexClip. Those were my play toys. I knew how to use them really well. I'd actually never been to Notebook LM. It took Lisa Deeker, Dr. Deeker, who also teaches here. It took her showing it to me for me to be like, oh, that's really cool. And then I showed her, we could take that and put pictures and videos and everything to it for free. Let's do that. So also talking to people about AI will get you better AI tools. It's not all about putting in the AI. What tool should I use for this? Sometimes AI throws out whatever's popular, but not what's good. So talk to people, find out what they use and why they think it's good. This is the YouTube video we eventually came up with from that article and that podcast. I'll let you hear a segment of it real quick.
All right, ready to sound like a total rock star in your next presentation on AI in education?
I'm all ears. Hit me with it.
We've got the inside scoop, the latest research from these absolute rock stars in the field, Doctors Maggie Mosier, Lisa Deaker, and Rebecca Hines.
I've heard those names are doing some really.
I have the free version, so Flex Clip will
seriously,
always be at
cutting-edge
the
stuff.
top. If you get the
And what I
paid
find
version,
really
there's none of
fascinating is how
that.
they connect their research to the actual day-to-day reality of teachers in
It
the
grabbed
classroom.
these
Especially,
pictures
and they emphasize
from
this,
our
for special
websites.
education teachers who are, let's be honest, juggling about a million things at once.
And these
Right,
were
it's like they're
pictures
running
it
a
just
three-ring
found for
circus
us.
some days, trying to meet so many
I don't know
different
who those
needs.
kids are.
And that's where the potential of AI comes in.
See, when I think AI, I still picture like robots and spaceships.
Jetsons.
Exactly. But what these researchers point out is that artificial intelligence, it's not some futuristic fantasy.
Word the
It's been around
Jetsons
for
in your
ages.
It
presentation.
has.
Think
No.
about it, those old
It comes up
educational
with all
elements some of us
kinds of
might
things.
remember from, way back when.
Oh, like Logo, where you could program that little.
Like, I didn't even know
turtle
what
to
that
move around the
was.
screen.
Exactly.
I was like,
that
what
was
is
many
that?
people's first brush with programming, even if we didn't
It's like,
realize
what
it at the
AI is
time.
that?
It's true. I spent hours trying to get that turtle to draw.
So that
a
was
perfect
not in
square.
our,
And now
but
we're
they
talking
pull in
AI
real
that
things
can
about
personalize
other
the
people to
student's
make
entire
it more
learning
real.
experience,
So it's
like
not all about what's in
analyzing
the
everything
article.
from their reading patterns to, get this, their emotional state during a lesson.
Wow. Okay, that's next level.
It's mind-blowing how far things have come. And Doctors Mosier, Deaker, and Hines, they argue that this rapid pace of development,
Why did
it
it start
demands a
going full
whole new
screen?
approach to how we train teachers.
So not just teaching them how to use the latest gadget, but like really grappling with how AI changes the whole game of education.
Exactly. We need to be equipping teachers with, almost like a future-proof toolkit. The ability to adapt and innovate as AI becomes more sophisticated.
To think critically about its applications, right? Not
Think of
just
how long it would have
blindly
taken me
accepting
to
whatever the
create
algorithm
this.
spits out.
Which brings us to another big takeaway.
Probably a
from this.
day, let's
Yeah.
be
It's not all
honest.
sunshine and robots, They paint a pretty stark picture of the challenges facing teachers today, especially teacher burnout.
Yeah, that's a real issue. And it's not just limited to education, right?
True, but these reasers, they zero in on
Okay,
how
so now what I
AI,
will tell you
if we use it right,
is certain
can
things we had to
actually
think
help
about.
alleviate
It's
some of
just
that
going to
burden.
go on about the article and what it thinks of the article and blah, 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 blah. Certain things we didn't think about. When we first plugged the article in, the name Dr. Diker is what AI decided was Deaker's name. So we had to go back into the PhD PDF and put a different name. But then I found out later, I didn't have to do that. All I had to do was in the start typing box, say the way in which you say Mosier is Mo-sure. The way in which you say Deaker is D-cur. Everywhere in this article, it says that word. I want you to use this pronunciation. And then it changed the entire pronunciation. So again, use the little chat bots to make it better. You can also say, I want you to really focus on, I put in the chat bot, I want you to really focus as one of the examples on the I Know project, because it was in our article as an example, and I wanted it to be highlighted, and I wanted Dr. Deaker's to be highlighted as well. So I put both of those in there, highlight those two. So in the podcast, it brought those two out to the front, as opposed to there were 7 others it could have. So you can really use that start typing to specifically say what you want. So now, any questions so far? Things you're wondering about, things you want to know?
You used the free membership
I did.
but the photos didn't have any watermarks on them or.
No, all of the photos in FlexClip, if they're free, do not have anything on them. It's just the whole FlexClip video has it at the top. But there weren't enough pictures. It kept replaying some pictures because this was 8 minutes long.
And there were photos that really weren't the best choice.
No, not at all. And this is 8 minutes long. And so it did replay a lot of pictures. So then I just went to another NVIDIA and had it create a video out of it and then plugged that video in. And then went to another generator and had it create another set of pictures and plugged that in. So some of those had, I don't know if you noticed, there were like 1 or 2 that did of the images or videos that had like a little, I can't remember which one it was. One of the NVIDIA ones had it on there. And that was just because I got tired of the same people coming up in the picture. And I was like, I don't want this whole thing to be 8 minutes of the same students. So eventually, if it's going to be more than 2 minutes, you'll have to pull from other places.
Can you ask it to just draw pictures for you?
It won't. It's not that smart. Yeah. And it will try to get you, it will give you options where you can pull in pictures, but most of them are paid. So, all right. Brisk AI. Who uses extensions? Awesome. What extensions do you use?
May or may not be some kind of ad blocker.
Okay, ad blockers. I use those a lot. Have you used Brisk AI? Great. Who here has used Brisk AI? Oh, okay. Who here has used Zotero? Okay, lots of people. Who here has used something that saves you money by giving you coupons? Yeah. So there are lots of different kinds of specific, what we would call extensions, or that you can add to your browser. Not all of those are AI. This one is my favorite AI extension. This one and Speechify are tied for my top two. Both of them are free. This one's free for teachers or people becoming teachers, but isn't for anyone else. So if you plan to teach someone, it's free for you, but it isn't for anyone else. I'm going to take you to what it can do because it is amazing. While it's doing what it can do, if you have questions, stop me at any point in time, okay? Because it can do a lot of things and we could go on for quite a while. Once you add it to your extensions, it looks like this little bee down in the corner. See this little bee? That tells me that's the extension. I click on that bee and it gives me options. It works in Google Chrome. It works in Google Slides. It works on internet. When I click that, it works in YouTube. I can have it create something, give feedback for something, inspect the writing. So I know when it was written, who wrote it, all of that. I can have it change the level in which it's written so that I could read it at a different level. And I can have it boost or create student activities for me. For this first one, what I'm going to have it do, this is a job satisfaction scale that somebody created, not me. But I figured since we're doing scales, I'd grab a job satisfaction scale and I wanted to know how well this job satisfaction scale worked. So I took it, and again, it has to be a docx. So if you have a really old Google document, you just have to save it again as a docx. So when I saved it again as a docx, it took away the lines, which is totally fine, still the same scale. And now I'm going to click this box. I'm going to have it give me feedback. I get different ways it can give me feedback. I like to use them all because they're all very different. But targeted is the only one that's a paid subscription. The other ones are free. When I click any of them, I'm going to do targeted right now just to show you, but I can click glow and grow. I'm going to say something specific about it, what I want it to do, because that's important. So I'm going to say, this is a survey. It needs to be at a 3rd grade reading level and accessible for people with and without disabilities at these ages. I wanted it ages 18 to 105, because what I want to measure, that's who I want to use, is adults. It can use visuals, words, scales, pictures, images. Please be sure to give specific examples of how to change anything you find when you're going through it. So that you suggest. I can choose what language I want it to do it in. So I'm going to stick with English. I can choose what level. I put you guys at university, but I could go down to 11th if we wanted to. But I'm going to stick you at university. And I can choose what I want it to do. Targeted, the glow and grow. I'm going to use 2 different ones to show you different aspects. And then I just click brisket. And it starts grading my paper, or grading my scale in this case. And it's going to go through and tell me what it thinks of my scale. Why am I showing this to you? Because your first advice on your scale doesn't have to be Dr. Fry. It could be brisket. What does brisket tell me? And you can cite that. I asked brisket to give me feedback on my scale, and here's what it told me. And this is how I changed it based off of brisket. So let's see what it's going to say. We're going to go once it's done with the whole scale. And this is an actual job satisfaction scale that someone wrote. I don't know when, but it has validity and reliability data behind it.
Should be 1994.
Okay. You seen this one before? So, okay, it's done giving suggestions. I'm going to go to the top and I'm going to look at what suggestions it gave me. So I need to get you a little bigger and go over here. So the first one was simplify the sentence. Our rules make work hard. I'm going to go to the very top, actually. So we are here. When I go to the very top and go down with it, it will go down to what it's recommending. So the first one is clarity and simplicity. The instructions could be simplified for better understanding at a third grade reading level, because they're not, consider rephrasing it to circle the number that shows how you feel about each question. So it gave me a different idea. I can comment on that or cancel it if I don't like it. The next one is the language complexity. The strongly disagree instead of disagree or very much to make it clearer. If I don't like it, I can cancel it. Complex vocabulary, consider using simpler language, such as I think I get enough money for my work, as opposed to what it's currently using. And I can keep going down. Negative framing, reframe the statement positively to avoid confusion, because I went from a positive to negative. However, I might want to go to a positive and negative to make sure they're not just circling things. So that actually could be something I totally want to ignore. So all of these are just, here's a negative statement, here's more complex sentence structures, here's an idiom that some people might not understand, so maybe change the idioms. Here's negative connotation, some different things like complex structures, negative language, people get along well at work. They didn't like that language as much, or framing it, work assignments are explained clearly, maybe rephrase that. When I'm done, I can stop generating. If I didn't like this, I can rate that response. So I really don't like what you told me. I can have it give me different feedback. I want you to tell me what I did really well. I want to glow and grow. Tell me what I did really well and how I can fix it. So I can specifically state, it'll tell me, the survey covers a wide range of job satisfaction. The use is consistent. There's a 1 to 6 all the way through it. You did great on that. The questions are straightforward, which can help. And then my grow, consider simplifying the language. For example, change competent to good at their job. It asks me questions like, how might you incorporate more inclusive language? And I can click insert, and that goes directly into my scale. All of those comments come at the top and tell me what I did well, what I need to grow in, and what I'm wondering about. This is also my favorite PowerPoint generator. I just go to a blank document. Anyone I want, I can go to a blank Google Doc or Sheets or Slides, whatever I want to do. It'll always pull up at the bottom. Once I get there, I click on it and let's create. We're going to create a presentation. What do you all want your presentation to be on? Throw out some things for me. What are you interested in? Anyone?
Dogs.
Dogs. Okay. Tell me about those dogs. What kind of dogs? Okay. More? Who? Hairless? Oh, that's a hard one. I want a presentation on small dogs that are hairless. Who's the presentation for?
Kindergarten.
For kindergartners. What do I want it to explain? Explain why they're hairless? Or explain why they're happy? Be sure to explain the history of the dogs. Okay. Anything else? What language do I want it in? Quechua. I don't know if that one's there. Oh, maybe. Spell Quechua for me. I'm not even sure I know. Nope, not there. It doesn't have Dene either, unfortunately.
Can we do Turkish? That's my own language.
Turkish, you got it. And then I can use a specific template, like I want one that has pretty little templates. I want to select a certain standard. What's fascinating about this standard is they're worldwide. So some of these standards are European Union. Some of these standards are advanced placement high school. I can choose Alaska. I can choose Florida. I can choose state by state standards. What standard do you guys want? You want Kansas? Do you want the international one? Do you want advanced placement? These are kindergartners. I guess we don't want advanced placement. Do I want Common Core? Okay, Common Core it is.
Have it start with a pun about hairless dogs.
Okay, I got to go back to that in a second. We're going to go with language arts and go quickly. We're going to go with kindergarten. Come on, kindergarten. Kindergarten. We're going to go with just the first strand I see. There are tons of other strands. And then tell me what you just wanted added. Oop, it's starting.
Start with the.
I somehow clicked enter. So it's starting already. But next one, you can do your next one that way. So it starts generating pictures. It thinks that one's hairless. So maybe it will make a presentation in that language based off of what you told it. You can download this into PowerPoint immediately. It's the only one. ChatGPT and other places will make presentations, but they won't add pictures. And so I like this one because it adds pictures. The only thing I will say about this is it's too wordy. So you're going to have to go in and change it and make it more small chunks. But I actually, and I actually haven't used the different languages. So someone's going to have to tell me if this is even accurate. Is it so far so good?
Yeah.
Good. I guess it must have moved on from hairless to something. It must be giving me a reason they do have hair now. It'll go in to talk about different things, whatever you put it on. And I chose 20 slides or 15 slides. I can't remember which one was the default, but you can choose how many slides. I just want a 3-person slide. I just want 12 slides. This one I think is set to 20. So it'll keep going until it gets 20 slides on this subject. And this is free, which is fascinating. So I actually don't write any of my presentations first drafts anymore at all. I just have it do it and then I change them to what I want. What I do like about this presentation also is when I download it into PowerPoint, because I don't like their backgrounds. There are only 4 kinds of backgrounds. If you get the paid subscription, there's a ton more backgrounds. But for the free version, there's only 4 backgrounds. But if I download this, all I have to do is click download and download into PowerPoint. And once it's downloaded into PowerPoint, and if I don't like it, I can boost it to give it more oomph. But I don't want to spend too much time on this one because we only have 20 more minutes-ish. So it's in PowerPoint now. And say I really don't like some of the design. So again, I just go over to my designer tool and let it generate different designs. So you didn't like that one. How do you want it to look? I want it to be more plain. I didn't like this one. How do I want it to look? And you can just look at other options for your designs. So it works really well. Again, too many words I wouldn't recommend, but if maybe it didn't give me a picture at all and I want it to look cooler, I can put that design in instead. So it's got options on what you use and how you use it.
It's like it ignored the kindergarten suggestion.
I don't,
I would disagree because the language they use is very,
low.
yeah.
But the print's so small.
that doesn't matter. They're not reading it. It's kindergarten. They're hearing it.
Oh,
You wouldn't be reading it. You wouldn't be reading that in kindergarten. You'd be hearing it though. So you could click on PowerPoint, you can have it read aloud. So it could read it aloud to them. And that would be more their language in kindergarten. Yeah, cool. Awesome. I hadn't used different languages yet, so that's good to know.
will that music?
It will not add music, but there are a ton of music generators. Yeah, tons. It will do more slides if you needed more. If you want a lesson or a resource about it, like I can click, give me a quiz about it afterwards and tell me how they did on that. I want a Turkish quiz. I don't want it to be at the university level. I want to go back down to maybe 1st grade. They don't do kindergarten quizzes because they think they shouldn't have to have a paper pencil quiz, which I agree. But I can put short responses, long responses, multiple choices, how many questions I want. Click next and it'll make me in a Google Doc or a form. What I like about this is it will make a form so I can have my students take it and it generates all of my information. So if you wanted to create a form for your specific scale that you're doing in Google Forms, I have my account already here. I'm going to have it brisket. I'm going to click continue. When you allow asks it access, it has 4 different brisket services already on it. So it's just telling me that, hey, you've got some already working.
And for the classroom teachers, I would add, like, you can have it create a open-ended question and a rubric for how to score it. And then you can go and edit the heck out of it.
Yeah, I would definitely. I don't need a tour of it. And I can also click boost it and it'll give me better things, but it created the survey for me with the questions that are multiple choice based on that presentation. And I can click and send it to all my students and share it with them and then I get all the results. So it really does cut down on what I love about AI is it's not supposed to do things for me. It's more like an assistant where the better I train it, the better it does at helping me. What it does is it frees up this kind of time. If I already know my stuff and can present it to you, putting it in a PowerPoint is just a waste of my time, right? It's just making it pretty. But I can then spend that time instead of all the time I would spend here, getting to know the students. I can spend the time asking them questions and getting information about them. I can spend the time building relationships because this time that was wasted in developing and making PowerPoints and then making a quiz and is now spent elsewhere. I still have to remember, you can never just leave AI to do your work for you. You are going to have to make sure it works and fix it. But overall, it's got some really cool features and lots of things it can do for free. I had it look at a job, like a resume or a cover letter and give me ideas on, does this job align with my CV? I just threw my CV in there and said, hey, I want to apply for this job. Does my CV align with what the university says they're looking for? And then it'll give me feedback on that. Well, the requirements, this does align, that doesn't align. So it's a good way to get some feedback on your information. And again, it can generate whatever you'd like it to generate. If I click create, it can do guided notes. It can do a sub plan for what I want the sub to do while I'm gone. Give exemplar, which would be good specific examples of what I want to tell or teach. It's got all kinds of things, and then it can translate fairly accurately in Spanish, I do know. I didn't know it could in others, but the translation's good. So I can throw in the PowerPoint I made and have it translate it, and it will change the whole PowerPoint into that language for me, which is great when I'm sending home things to my English language learners. It can also make IEP goals and specific templates or plans for 504s.
And Maggie, it makes UDL lesson plans.
It does. It'll make UDL lesson plans.
Quality of the UDL lesson.
What do you want it to do?
Make an article. I don't mean right now.
Oh, okay. Like, you want me to make an article? I can.
An article on how good the UDL lesson plans are created by.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, there's a lot to it. So now that we've made it through that section, we're going to go back to, now we know how it can work for being creative, how it can work as my personal assistant and do the tasks that I don't have time for. Now, how does it personalize? When we're talking about personalization, we need to think about, I've already done, when I'm looking at personalization, most of that is I've done the content. Now I want it to take it and make it work for this student. The only way AI can do that is if I know that student. It can't do it otherwise, right? So, for example, I want it to rewrite what I wrote into 3rd grade level. So any of the questions you have in your survey, if you're like, I don't know if this is correct, I can throw it into any, this is chatbots mostly that we're going to talk about. So any chatbot, have it rewrite it into a different level. I can have that chatbot take my scale and tell me what it should be measuring and see if I'm pretty accurate or not. Like, does it think I'm measuring something totally different when I put my scale in there? I will tell you, anything you put in chatbots, there's some important things to remember. ChatGPT, anything you put in ChatGPT, unless you have a paid version, goes up into the cloud. You cannot get that information back. So do not put anything in there that you want to one day patent. It's okay if you want to publish it, but not patent it. You can never get a patent on something you put already in a chatbot, just FYI, because they Google it to see if anything's out there and it could come up as being out there. So not if you want to patent, but if you just want to publish it, you can still put it in a chatbot. Things like Microsoft Copilot, which you guys have access to in your Microsoft 365 and it's free. That's better because you have a subscription. And subscriptions provide some level of safety. They're not supposed to use your information to make their chatbot better, so it doesn't go to the cloud. So subscription chatbots are going to be safer than regular chatbots. Other things, change the info into an image. I love doing this. Here's my article, make it a picture. And it does a really good job. And if I don't like the picture, I just give it more examples.
What does that mean? It makes a picture based on the entirety of the article?
Yep.
Or
I'll show you.
it's not like those old word clouds where
No.
actually the words.
No. So create a rubric to analyze the response options, if I'm doing qualitative, that's kind of nice. Create a graphical abstract from those results. I have done that, but beware. I found out after I did that on one of my articles, I read all of the requirements for the article. And at the very end of this journal's requirements, it says, you cannot use AI to generate anything for this article. I was like, oh, so I had to remake the whole entire image. So make sure you're looking, if you're going to submit anything to anyone, can you use AI and what can and can't you use it on? Because it was okay with us using AI to fix grammatical mistakes, but not okay to generate. So something to think. Based on this, I was trying to reach what objective? I often put my lessons in there and say, what am I trying to teach? And then sometimes I'm right on and sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, that was a lot of fun stuff and not much teaching going on in that lesson. So things to think about there. Okay, before I take you to Magic School, I'm going to take you to a few different chatbots and tell you why I like them and what I would use them for. Oh yeah, quickly. Yes, I will go back to that. Let's see. Where are we? Here we go.
Welcome to our deep dive today.
It made 10
we're
minutes.
going to be exploring virtual reality and AI. And
So remember, the
specifically,
present scale is
how
the first
all of
thing it
that's going
had.
to impact the future of learning.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's amazing how fast things are changing in these fields, and it feels more relevant than ever to really be looking at education through this lens.
You're right. It's not even a question of if it's going to have an impact at this point, but how. So how do we use all of this effectively?
Exactly. And I think that's where this research comes out.
Yes.
Really interesting work being done by Dr. Maggie Mosher and her team about
And you can
what
see
makes a really
Mosher,
engaging
because they
and
didn't change the
truly
name, so
effective
it's right back to
virtual
Mosher.
learning experience.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because Everybody talks about the metaverse,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's enough to just drop
Can
someone
you
into a
change
virtual
their
world and
voice?
expect them to be,
No, that's
you
the
know,
one thing that's
magically
set. You can't
learning
change
and
the guy and the
engaged.
girl.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Dr. Marsher actually uses this term presence. And
Okay.
she argues that presence is absolutely crucial if you want to make virtual learning effective.
So what does presence actually mean, though?
So it's that feeling of really being involved. Like when you're watching a movie and you get so
How well do you
caught
think
up
it's
that
so
you
far?
forget you're watching a movie. That's the kind
Think
of feeling
about
we're
an
talking
article
about.
you really don't
Being
want to read,
present in the experience,
throwing it in
not
there,
just
and listening to
passively
it in the
observing
car.
it.
Yeah, I get it. And
It gives you
it's
a
interesting
fairly
because
accurate
Dr.
idea. You
Mosher's
could definitely
team,
talk to your
I
teacher
mean, they
about it.
actually went really deep on this idea
So
of
some things to
presence.
be thinking about.
Like they didn't just say, oh yeah, presence.
And the amount of time changes. So I'm going to regenerate another one. We're going to listen to a different one at the end so that you can see once I don't like it, although it doesn't like me now that I'm doing, there we go. I'm just going to delete it. So delete that, delete. And what do we want to add to it? This is not about virtual reality, but about creating a presence scale. Can you emphasize that? Anything else? I'm going to not tell it how to say my name, and I'm just going to say correct the pronunciation, and we'll see what happens. The pronunciation.
Or that it'll sometimes do 2 or 3 different versions
Yep.
of the same.
Of the same name, yeah. If it is not sure how to say a name, it'll say Mosher one time, Mosher the next time, Mosher the next time. Like it's hilarious how many different ways it says it, just in case. So it'll get one right.
That shows you on the internet how little times there are that we have text and audio aligned so that it can't learn the right pronunciation. You think it could. You can do it for words because those are sites that do that, but not for most names.
Okay, so back to this really quickly. Why is this? This is my favorite thing to talk about because there's a chat bot for everything, but knowing what chat bot to use matters. Perplexity, who uses that chat bot? No one. Do you know that Perplexity actually is one of the only chatbots that breaks the citations down by section? It'll give you the exact citation of where that thought came from. And you can share Perplexity with up to 5 friends. So whatever you create, you can share with 5 friends. After that, you have to pay. But if you're planning on doing a collaborative work with a few people, and if you're planning on needing to know where the citation came from, Perplexity does a good job. Consensus.
Breaking it down, it means it'll tell you that it was on page 2 of this article.
Consensus, who uses that? 1, 2 people. Okay. Consensus is one of the only scientifically verified, evidence-based, peer-reviewed analyzing of research papers. So it will actually sort by the year, by the open access, by the country, by the number of times that article was cited. So if you want to find information from only highly cited resources, you can write that in the chat. Just say, I want to know about AI. I want to know about AI. I use this a lot if I'm looking at systematic literature reviews. I'll say, go find all the systematic literature reviews you can on how AI is influencing educational outcomes. I put that on it, and then I give it more information. Like I want only articles that have been cited at least 5 times and were created in the years 2022 to 2024. And it will actually cite those articles and tell you what's in each of them. That's consensus. Poe. I love to create my own chatbots because then I can make sure that it's learning the way I want it to learn. So on Poe, you can create chatbots for free. So I have a chatbot that does illustrations. You're welcome to use it anytime. It's called Higher Ed Images, Higher Ed Images. And I trained it on how to make pictures that I like because a lot of the images I was getting were not diverse. They were all white little kids. And most of the population I work with is very diverse. So having a bunch of white little kids was not helpful. Or it would have certain teachers of only certain ages. And lots of the teachers in the schools I met are young, and these were all old ladies. So it was very biased. So I had to train it to be less biased. So that's Poe. Hugging Face, I actually don't use, but some people like it because they prefer it over Claude or You. You is a good one too if you're just trying to find something that has a different perspective. So sometimes I'll have it write one thing in one chatbot and move it over to the other and say this in other words, and it'll say it in a different way. But I wouldn't go to those three. Those are the ones that I avoid the most because they don't really give me anything extra. I do love Microsoft Copilot because there isn't any limit in your subscription with 365 and you own that content because you have a subscription. And it's like, it does use ChatGPT. Right now it's 4.0, I think that it's using, and then it Dolly 3. So it uses great productions. And then I love custom GPT. I'll show you my favorite custom GPT. And why do I love custom GPT? Because you decide where it's pulling its information from and it pulls from nowhere else. So I use a specific one that pulls from over 50,000 resources that are just education, well-known resources. So I'll tell you my favorite custom chatbots first in Poe are Scholar GPT. It's a really good one. When you ask it questions, it's pretty accurate because the person who created it is a professor. Probability and statistics professor is a probability and statistics professor in some university. I don't remember which one, but it's been the most accurate when I ask statistics questions and giving me a correct answer. So I use that one in Poe. It has a data analyst. I use that a lot. I do use their expert grade writer because I write a lot of grades. So I say, can you say this in a way that would cause the government to like me better? Like silly words like that. And you'd be surprised what it tells you. And then consensus that chatbot will tell you, based on where I'm getting all my information, this is the consensus on your topic. This is what most people think. The chatbot that I like the most, this is the QR code to it, the custom GPT. That QR code will take it to you. I also made a tiny URL because that chatbot has a URL that's like a whole page long. So there's a tiny URL down there that can take you to that chatbot. But why I like it is it has 5,000 reputable open source resources in education that it pulls from, and that's it. Nowhere else. Doesn't get information from any other place. And most of those are like IRIS, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the Research for Inclusive Settings, Vanderbilt's models. It pulls from all of those. And Vanderbilt has a whole section on evidence-based practices. So it pulls from all the evidence-based practices. So it has really good things that it's pulling from. And then it also pulls from CAST. So the UDL resources it pulls as well. So if you're looking for accurate chatbot to send students to, I always use that one because it's not ever going to pull up something that isn't somewhat verified. So now let's go play around with one chatbot. Do we have enough time? We're getting close. Okay, I'm going to take you 1 to 2 places and then we're going to finish pretty soon. I'm not going to show you all the cool things Magic School AI can do because we don't have time for that, but I am going to take you.
Wait, the link to this presentation is now up on under, I think, this week's stuff.
Okay.
And it's in the form of a PDF, but it has clickable links.
This is the chatbot, what it'll look like, the one that's created based off of all of the reliable sources. That's where it'll take you if you're like, should it look like? This is Poe. So this is the image creator I created in Poe. It's called Higher Ed Images. And I used one of the top image creators to make it for free. And I started giving it things like, okay, I want it to create an image. And I give it very specific, look how specific that prompt is. 3 middle school students are seated at a table. 2 of the students, both boys, are wearing a head-mounted display. One of the boys is Caucasian, the other is African-American. The third student, a girl, is looking at an iPad. She has light brown, like very specific what I want. She's watching the students with a kind of attentive expression, settings modern, blah, blah, blah. So this is what it gives me the first time. So I've got 2 students cheating off of each other on their iPads, and I've got the kid with the head-mounted display not even wearing it. I was like, that is not what I want. That's not going to be helpful. It does not explain what we're doing. Give me something else. So I ask it for something else and it goes to this. Now I can't see that anybody's cheating, but no one's doing. They're not the age I wanted. They're not, so that wasn't helpful. And I told it I didn't like that. I gave it a better prompt and it gave me this. Now I've got one kid ignoring the other kid. There aren't 3 students. It forgot I wanted 3. And 1 student's in the head-mounted display, but no one else's. Then I was like, I still don't like what you're doing. And I asked it for other things. It gave me 1 kid trying to sneak into the other kid. Now we got the 3 kids back. So I'm getting somewhere. I said, I still don't want a kid cheating. So it gave me people who are both looking at their head-mounted displays and their iPads at the same time, which doesn't happen. I don't need both. So I told it, you don't do both. I need you to kind of work on that. So now we've got everybody holding it. Some are, some aren't. It's like, that's still not what I want. And it was like, I give up here. what do you want from me? And so I went and regave the whole prompt in different words, and it gave me this. And look, I have a magical person here. No head, just an arm and an iPad. It was like, well, you really don't like the kid that's cheating, so I'm going to take you back to something similar, but I'm going to exclude the kid that was looking at the other kid. So I'll just take that kid out. I was like, yeah, I don't want a missing child. So maybe work on that. It gave me half the child back. I said, no, I really need more than that. It took away the child again, but now I've got two kids who are both wearing the head-mounted display. One does not need it, and the other holding the iPad who does not need it. So I tell it again, I still don't like what you're giving me. Here's what I want. Now I've got 3 kids. All of them are doing what I asked. But how many prompts did that take? A lot to get what I finally asked for. So it's not that it can't do it. It's that it doesn't either understand my prompts well enough, or it's working on generating it and no one's ever asked it to do that before. So it's learning. It's grabbing different things and learning from me. So that's one of the reasons I recommend creating your own chatbots, because it can learn from you and it can become better based off of you. Okay, so creating your own chatbots in Poe. Little last things. Pseudo writer, and these are all in your notes. Storm will actually generate an entire article based on what I put in that I want it to generate. I can just say, write an article in special ed. It generates the entire article with a summary, a lead section, the historical context, the different parts of it. All of this was based on a 3-word prompt of what I wanted the article to be about. And it generates an entire article. So Storm has some cool things. Diffit, I always say it wrong. Diffit will take any of your text or PDF, change the language or the grade level quickly. You just stick it in there and put what grade and what level, and it creates everything in a different language and different text. It will create a vocabulary list for you. It'll take an article or YouTube video you put in there and make a summary of it for you and give you questions based on the YouTube video. It will literally create anything you want. I had it create, I think I asked it to create a scale or survey, personalizing it on AI and asking these questions to 11th graders, and it created that for me. And then it gave me how it created it and a summary of it and what key vocabulary are there, what multiple choice questions I could ask based on it, short answer questions, prompts, everything. And then over here, it actually creates an entire section of this. It'll take it and create different activities. Here's some vocabulary practice things you can print out for the kids. Here's some read and take notes. Here's some specific multiple choice questions in a PowerPoint, short answers. So it creates all of this very quickly and it downloads specifics. So that is Diffit, and all of these are on yours as well. The last one that I want to make sure you know something about, because I do love it, is Goblin. Who here's used Goblin tools? Nobody. Okay, crazy name, but I love it. It's got a magic to-do list and a judge and a formalizer and a professor. The things I use the most are the magic to do, because it will take, and based off of what I want to do, so say I want to, give me something one of you needs to do quickly. What do you need to do? Write a scale. And I could give it more things and tell who's going to be reading the scale, how much I want, how many. It'll break the task into specific parts, how many days and hours it will take to do that. I can click on it and find out all of the different steps. It will estimate the amount of time based on the more information I give it. So eventually you'll get all of the steps of creating a scale based on whatever you put in there and how long each of those should take. And you can confirm or deny that it should take that long for you. Great way to figure out how a big project, what you need to do to get that done. The other thing I like about it is the professor, because I'll ask it a question and it'll simplify it for me. Like if I don't understand something, I'll just give it to it and it'll simplify it. And then I like the judge and the formalizer, because the judge, I will put in an email and then click judge it, and it will give me a response that would be accurate. Or formalizer, like I can say, I want my text to be more formal. I want it to be technical, polite, more sarcastic, and it'll convert all of my text to whatever I want it to be. So that is Goblin Tools. It's another fun little, I do have it often write my emails for me, and then I change what I don't like or add, because it's faster than sitting there and typing up emails to basic questions. Any questions there? All right, that is everything for you. So at the end of this PowerPoint, you will have at the very end a few different things. I'm going to take you fast through it. Those are the Goblin tools and the Diffit tools. Ethical things you should consider, when you're using AI. Just make sure you read it. And then I wrote an article with a few other people that provides the AI in every single free AI in every single category. And then it tells you how we think as authors, as educators, you could use those tools. Then ChatGPT says how it would use it. And then Copilot says how it would use those tools. So it gives you just ways to use different tools. The tools come looking. So that is this one. It gives you all the different AI by category. So if you're wanting something that does like images, it'll take you to images. If you want AI for video creation, it'll take you to video creation. If you want AI to make systematic reviews, it'll make systematic reviews. So whatever AI you're looking for, it'll just give it to you. But these are also in there.